Gilbert, this next guest is making his Compas on the Beat history. He's the first ever guest to appear twice on Compas. And of course, it is the great Joe Reedy, aka Uncle Joe. He covers everything, and I mean everything for the Associated Press, from Chargers to WWE. He's even a DJ waka waka what on the side. Joe, how are you? What's your favorite song to play for reporters while waiting for interviews on Zoom?
Oh, definitely Fireball. And I am honored to be the first two-time guest. I thought that Daniel Popper would have barged his way into two or three-time territory by now. So I am thrilled beyond belief, as you can see. I'm literally doing cart flips.
No, Joe, you get all the special treatment because you bring the good music, Fireball, Pitbull. We love the energy during Zoom. But I gotta say, I don't like the Christmas music. You know this. I don't like Christmas music during the holidays, but I like Christmas music in July. So you could play it right now. I'm all for that. Just don't play it during the holidays. And also, Joe, you're special because you're part of the Korean barbecue club. You had food with us the other day. You got to see Dan and Daygo and myself in person argue. How was that for you? And tell us about this place you found for us, because you picked the Korean barbecue place in Irvine.
Yeah, it's a spot that I hadn't been able to check out for a while, just due to COVID and everything. And Korean barbecue, for one, I think if it's just a table for one, it looks kind of creepy, and all that. So it was good to catch up for you guys in the arguments, and also provoke Dan at times with saying all the injuries and worst case scenarios.
Yeah, he doesn't like that kind of stuff.
And also, I think we all have side bets now that Tim Tebow will not be making the Jacksonville Jaguars roster, even though which is strange because I'm a University of Florida fan. I worked in Gainesville for 2 years, but growing up as a kid in Ohio, I just loved the Gators uniforms and them coming up and everything. I should be like one of Tebow's staunchest supporters, and even I can't get behind him. I think the whole Tom Brenneman hyping him up during the Orange Bowl the one year as the greatest human living, even greater than the Dalai Lama or the Pope, kind of soured me.
You hear that, Dan and Daygo? Tim Tebow was not making the 53-man roster because Uncle Joe said so. So he's watching, Fernando. You let him know right now. I know he's probably somewhere in that room hiding, so let him know, because that's why we have Joe on, because he brings the knowledge as always.
Dan and Daygo is not here, but let me tell you, we're on our way. We were leaving, right? We left you guys. He's like, those two fools don't know what they got themselves into. And I was like, why? He's like, look at this. Read this out loud. I'm like, I'm driving. He's like, what does it say? And I'm like, Tim Tebow has the most bought jersey in right now in the NFL. He's like, do you think they're going to cut this guy? He's a moneymaker. And I just started laughing. I'm like, oh my God. So folks, as you guys can tell, I get it from all sides. I have to listen to it from Gilbert. I have to listen to it from Dan and Daygo. So I'm a very patient person. I get it from everybody, but he was just, then we went to, obviously to let traffic die down, we went to go watch Black Widow again, which I will have a review later. But we're talking about it or whatever. And he goes, we're in the middle of the movie, and he goes, by the way, he's like, if you notice, Tim Tebow's gotten, and I'm like, dude, let me watch the movie, argue about this later. And so you guys really got him fired up that day.
Dude, it's Scarlett Johansson on a 60-foot screen. Shut up.
And Florence Pugh. Which has Florence Pugh has everybody. I think she's America's sweetheart right now. Everybody loved it. But all right, Uncle Joe, enough of this talk. Let's drop into some Chargers. It's time for you to drop some of your knowledge. You've covered the NFL for many years. I'm not trying to date you, Uncle Joe. Obviously, I'm just saying.
I'm old.
No. You have a vast knowledge of this. So, what are your keys for a successful Chargers training camp, and what needs to go right for new head coach Brandon Staley?
Number one is Derwin James making it when he's and I think too, just general health. As long as the team is healthy coming out of training camp and we don't have any injury questions of will they or won't they play in the opener at Washington, I think that's successful enough. There are going to be injuries during training camp. Hopefully it's to the second or third string players and not to your starters. I mean, 3 years ago they were able to survive without Joey Bosa for half of the season. The last 2 years with Derwin James and issues on the offensive and defensive lines made a huge impact. I don't care if you got to put Derwin in bubble wrap. I don't care if you got to put him in one of those giant balls that they do for sumo during, where they do the batting of stuff during hockey games. Just make sure he's healthy going into the start of the season.
Would you let him play in preseason games?
I would let him play a series or series and a half in the first and second preseason games. Make sure he's up and running, and then get him out of there. But I think the thing that we've all got to watch too, look at the injuries the past 2 years. 2 years ago happened during the joint workout, so I think all of us are going to be holding our breath during the joint workout against the Niners. Last year during one of those inter-squad scrimmages. So I think which probably the first time we're really going to be holding our breath is during that workout at SoFi, August 8th or 9th or
8th.
8th, yeah.
I mean, my schedule runs so varied due to the Olympics and and the Astros being here in 2 weeks against the Dodgers, which it'll be nuts then. I mean, by August 8th, if I still know my name with as much work that I have going on, it'll be a miracle. And as you guys hear, the dog is so excited that I'm on Compas right now that he has to keep doing stuff.
I was gonna say, Joe, as soon as you said bubble wrap, I started hearing the sound effect to bubble wrap noise. So I'm like, wow, you guys are really working together.
So, it's not only a DJ, but I have the dog well trained with doing sounds and everything too. So, I also think too, just on installation and everything, how quickly they can get up and running. And I think it's a thing more to watch during the season than training camp, that how this team adapts to the general ebbs and flows of the season. I think that's going to be key.
Joe, this next question is for Dan and Daygo. I'm going to keep poking them because you're on the show, and I think we're on the same team here when it comes to, Tim Tebow. So, one thing you keep saying when we get together, you like to kind of be a little instigator, Joe. You say, what about Justin Herbert? This and that about Justin Herbert? So now I'm going to ask you about Justin Herbert, Joe, and your dog could be part of it too as well. But Joe, the expectations for Justin Herbert year 2. We saw what he did as a rookie. The bar is set really high, Rookie of the Year, and I just keep telling Dan and Daygo and Fernando that maybe might be a little bit of regression, new coaching staff. I'm just a little concerned about the new coaching staff, new faces. But for you, can you really surpass what he did a year ago, and can he kind of make that bar a little higher, or do you see some kind of a regression coming for Herbert year 2?
Maybe a little bit of regression as far as, deep ball and pressure in the blitz, because those numbers last year were just phenomenal. And I think we saw maybe during the second half it regressed a little more towards the mean and average of other NFL quarterbacks. I don't know how much, though, he takes a step back because it's a new offense. So how do we compare last year's Justin Herbert against this year's with two different offensive systems? I think how quickly he can adapt to the system, how much they tailor it towards him, and how much he can raise the other players up. But I also think, too, in terms of Justin Herbert, how we evaluate year 2, a lot of that's going to depend on the offensive line. 4 new starters. Brian Bulaga's only holdover, but, how many games did Brian Bulaga play last year? So it's almost a totally new offensive line, and how quickly they adapt, especially week one in Washington. You know, with that defensive line that Washington has, Slater versus Chase Young 3 years later is going to be one of the more interesting side notes of that game. And I think, too, just that offense staying healthy, especially at running back. I think there was a lot of pressure put on Herbert last year when Austin Eckler missed time. And as Fernando noted, I think you've noted in stories, that second running back spot between Kelly, Justin Jackson, and Larry Roundtree is definitely going to be one of the interesting battles during training camp. Durability issues versus confidence issues versus, short yardage, sixth round running back. That's going to be fun to watch. I think, though, how he adapts to other teams and challenges and raises his personal level is going to be a key thing too, because there's 15 games of tape out there on him. People adapt. We saw it a little bit in year two with Lamar Jackson, but also Lamar was able to raise his game and prove that what was on tape, he could rise above that level. So I think, how much Herbert worked during the offseason, and we'll see it early. We'll get a good idea from him on, is this guy really transcendent and the new stud LA quarterback that people are hoping for.
Yeah, Joe, you kind of answered my next question a little bit, but I'll ask it anyway because there's a lot on this roster to kind of look out for. But also tell me a little more about the running backs, because I am intrigued about the running backs, because right now I have Justin Jackson ahead because he's so talented, but if he's not available, he's not gonna have that spot. But Joe, what are you watching closely? Are any players positions that you're watching closely? I know we already mentioned Derwin and Herbert, so let's put them aside. But any players that you're watching closely, is the running back, Slater? Who's catching your attention for summer training camp?
I think that second running back spot, because let's face it, Justin Jackson misses any time during training camp, or he isn't set to go at the beginning of the season, he's gone. It's the last year of his contract. It's a new coaching staff. They are going to move on. Joshua Kelly better show that he's improved in special teams and has rectified his ball control issues, because if he hasn't, he's gone too. There's probably only 3 to 4 spots of running back on this roster, and those guys are going to have to be up and running. Roundtree, with the short yardage and everything, is going to be the one to watch. Because I think, let's face it, the past couple of years, this team has struggled in short yardage. Hell, even when Melvin Gordon was here, they struggled in short yardage. So they need that short yardage running back, especially in, red zone situations. I think they won't be as predictable in the red zone, running it every time to where, some writer friends of ours in the press box start throwing their hands up and want to jump out the window every time the Chargers run the ball. I won't name names, Popper. But, I think that you still need that guy on third and goal at the 1 to punch it in, instead of having Herbert do it, or, as we saw in that Raiders game last year, trying to wet it and throw down there too. Sante Samuel, cornerback, can he quickly get up to speed? I think if he does, he's a opening day starter. Defense, adjusting to a 3-4, I think, is key. I mean, Staley's system doesn't rely on linebackers a whole lot, but it's a 3-4 set, and this team has been notoriously lacking depth at linebacker. So how that goes, and then at one of the offensive guard spots, I think we all penciled in Ibushi as one of the starters the opening week, but they've got a rookie that's coming in that could excel. And I also think backup quarterback too, Chase Daniel versus Easton Stick. I give Easton a slight advantage because of third year youth and everything and what he can do. Maybe they can put him in different spots and everything. But it doesn't hurt to have a dependable veteran in Chase Daniel. But I really only see this team keeping two quarterbacks coming out of camp because I think they need, spots at the defensive line, and who knows, they may carry 7, 8 wide receivers because there's a lot of guys that maybe aren't familiar names, but there's a whole lot of potential there with that group.
Yeah, no, and usually an undrafted guy makes the roster, but Gilbert was about to say it. He was about to say SummerSlam. I heard him. He's excited. Uncle Joe, I'm excited. Let's shift over to WWE now because we all saw it. Roman Reigns, Gilbert's tribal chief, our tribal chief, grabs the microphone after he beats Edge and says, now the whole world can acknowledge me. Then it hits. Here comes John Cena, and he says, I'm back, letting everybody know that he returned at Money in the Bank. What do you expect at SummerSlam between him and your tribal chief?
I think it's going to be a great match. And also, Cena looks in great shape.
Oh, yeah, he does.
Talking to people who were in Fort Worth and also talking to folks at WWE, they put that down as top 5, top 6 loudest pops that they've heard of somebody coming back. Roman Reigns as a heel is very good, and he's done a good job doing that. And I think now having fans back in the stands, so he can feel that heat, is a very good thing, because let's face it, when Reigns won and Rollins was doing his thing, it's like heel versus heel at SummerSlam. And now that you've got John Cena, I think that sets up as a very good matchup. Seth Rollins versus Edge looks like one of those good matchups too. Down the line, even though nobody can compete with Seth Rollins' wardrobe that he's had the past 3-4 months. I don't know if Becky has become his fashion advisor or not, but I did like the Texas outfit with the blue stripes, blue stars blazer and everything. I think if I see Seth in Vegas, I might ask him where he got that so I can get one of those and style and profile it during games this season.
Uncle Joe, it's like you. Oh, my bad. I interrupted you. I was gonna joke. I was gonna throw out a joke, but I'll keep it to myself.
No. Go ahead.
No, well, when you said silent profile, I had to give you a woo. We'll see the next 3-4 weeks how the rest of the card shakes out too. Goldberg versus Lashley. Can those two? He got a fat pop.
Goldberg
got a fat pop.
But can those two go longer than 5 minutes? That'll be something. Nikki Ash, even though I have a hard time accepting that storyline and everything, good for her and everything, but who all of a sudden goes and challenges her? Do we get Banks versus Belair Part 2 at SummerSlam? Because I think the boss will be back at some point, whether it's this week or next week. It's shaping up as a nice card in Vegas, which, considering I think there's still depth issues in the WWE, things are starting to come around a little bit. And I think also, as far as storylines and character development, now that they're back out in the crowd and feeding off of that after 16 months in the Thunderdome, I think it's definitely going to help that way.
I agree. Uncle Joe, right now Cena's one of the biggest stars right now. He's making movies. He's doing raunchy movies. He was Dominic Toretto's brother, and Jacob Toretto. He's about to be in the Suicide Squad, and he has some other things coming up. But Do you think this is finally when we get to see Cena win his 17th championship and pass Ric Flair? Because it really seems like lately he's been helping young talent. He's developing. When he had the United States Championship, guys like Ricochet, his open challenge, guys like Kevin Owens, they took it. But right now it feels like, and I know fans are a little angry with it, but it feels like the one that feels like is going to pass Ric Flair is Charlotte. She's already at 13 championships in basically 5 years of being on the main roster. But do you think Cena's the one that does it, or do you think it's going to end up being Charlotte?
No, I think it'll be Cena, because I think the other interesting thing too is I think last year leading into WrestleMania, because Cena has the place in Tampa, I know he helped out Big E a lot too with his workout thing that he has there, because Big E did one of those Chronicles things where it showed working out with Cena and stuff. And I think too, I kind of compare Cena to The Rock in that it seemed like when The Rock left WWE to do movies, he left and he was gone and very rarely returned. Cena knows the fan base, kind of knows that this is what got him to the level that he is now, and has, enjoys coming back from time to time, and also does it to where it's not so much of a novelty anymore. I mean, when The Rock came back, like every 5-6 years, it was a novelty. Cena, it's like, oh, he's back for a while and everything. And I think the fans have grown to really appreciate that. And I think kind of like Kurt Angle and a couple of the other fans too, he's taken the, fans booing him and fans cheering him, from side to side, and really has fun with that. Which I think he kind of saw Kurt Angle do that, like, come on, bring it my way and everything. And, now that we're seeing Gary Bettman in the NHL accept the booing and everything, too.
You know what I thought about, Joe, when John Cena came back? I thought about how he called The Rock a part-timer, and now he's doing the same thing, doing the movies and coming back every now and then for being a part-timer. But you're right, Joe. When he comes back, he becomes a full-timer, then he'll leave. So I can't knock
the summer of Cena.
Yeah, so it's a summer. There's a season, but I'm a big Rock guy. So I remember when The Rock and Cena went at it, I was like, don't call that guy a part-timer. He's a legend. But anyways, Joe, you know that when it comes to combat sports, my thing is boxing. And August 21st, there's going to be a clash. Manny Pacquiao, Earl Spence Jr. Going head-to-head against SummerSlam. But Fernando called it. I got really antsy. I was going to say summer training or SummerSlam training camp earlier because I am excited about SummerSlam. It's a Saturday. I hate that it's a Saturday on the fight night, but I'm going to be watching both because you guys talking about this card has me really excited. The downside, I don't really care for Goldberg. I don't like the old guys unless it's The Rock, The Rock or Stone Cold. Those guys that come back whenever they want. But the Goldberg
There's rumors about The Rock too.
Okay, then you got me hyped. But the overall, Seth Rollins, competing, was it against Edge? Also another old time guy coming back. But overall, this card seems pretty stacked. You got me excited with Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks. I don't know, that's a SummerSlam thing for the future. But overall, Joe, do you think this Saturday night kind of weird primetime spot at a stadium is going to deliver everything? Have a packed house in Vegas Saturday night. You think the card is living up to the potential of the venue?
Yeah, I think it is. And I also think, too, WWE firmly knows that the Pacquiao fight is going on. Because just talking to a couple people at the company earlier in the week, they were like, yeah, if people have to cover the Pacquiao fight, we know there is a time limit on this card that they can get quickly to T-Mobile to get to the main event and everything, or if there's fans. And I think it's also a great thing for Vegas, considering the past year and a half of everything that's happened. This is first time second time that there's going to be a real live buzz in the city of people coming, because there's nothing in Vegas like a high-priced fight night, whether it was the UFC card last month with McGregor or with Pacquiao and SummerSlam coming up. I was there during the Kentucky Derby a couple years ago when it was, Canelo with his bout on Cinco de Mayo and everything. That there's a real buzz in the city when it's a fight night. And I'm kind of old enough to remember when on the strip, the form and everything, Caesars didn't exist, and they were building those temporary stadiums in the parking lot at Caesars to hold those great Hagler Hearns, Leonard Hearns, some of those great fights.
I honestly, I think the three of us need to be in Dallas next year, especially if you love The Rock, Gilbert, because I've been hearing things. Uncle Joe, I don't know if you've heard what I've been hearing, but there could be your tribal chief could be going up against the people's champion. What do you think, Gilbert?
Hey, if The Rock's fighting you, Fernando, I'm gonna watch it. That's how much I love the people's champ. But hey, the tribal chief, I gotta acknowledge him. And if you get The Rock to acknowledge you, and I guess you're the what is this? The head of the table. See, I know my lingo.
Ooh, look at that! Look at that, Uncle Joe.
And having Paul Heyman with that and everything too, because I think the other thing that's great too during Roman Reigns' matches is seeing, Paul Heyman in the background, like when Reigns took a couple big hits, Heyman was like, or in the general facial expressions that he has, and everything. Or, Lesnar versus Reigns would be interesting
but
too.
Where does his allegiance lie there?
I think that makes it the interesting storyline of where does his allegiance lie when it comes to a bout like that.
Before we let you go, Uncle Joe, I just wanted to say one thing. Gilbert, you said Edge is a part-timer and everything, but man, he still has, like, I know Goldberg does his thing, and sometimes some part-timers don't look good. Edge still, in my opinion, has it. I think he can still. I don't know what you think, Uncle Joe.
Well, and also, with the way Edge's career had to end due to the neck injury, and the fact that he's been able to come back and have this, third or fourth act in his career, because he's done comebacks. He did comebacks coming back from injuries and everything before having to go on the shelf due to the neck injury. And just seeing this and being able to accomplish what he has, and it also shows the modern marvels of energy of medicine too.
Of course.
How with neck injuries now, there's hope for people to come back. I mean, 25 years ago, you had a neck injury, you were done for a year or two.
Yeah.
Now it might be more 6 to 8 months. So we'll see. It's good to see the run that he's had, and hopefully there's a title there in the future and everything for him.
Yeah, let me apologize to the Rated R superstar. He's a great legend. Sorry, Fernando, you called me out, but I was gonna say I love the song, the intro. You Think You Know Me is one of the best of all time.
That one hits, you know what's going on. But look at that. We got into some Dan and Daygo, Tim Tebow bet talk. We got into some Chargers, some WWE. Hopefully, SummerSlam, I think, is just going to be a hit. Hopefully, we can get Paul Heyman on Compas to talk to us. Paul Heyman, if you're listening, hopefully you can do us the honor of jumping on as the advocate for the head of the table. Hopefully you can jump on with us, but definitely exciting, Uncle Joe. Anything you got before we head out?
Just gonna be it's an interesting time in LA the next 3 weeks. Training camp's opening up. Shohei Mania. Dodgers Giants has been a heck of a series so far, but things get really interesting in a couple weeks when the Astros come in, and now that there can be 55,000 people at Dodger Stadium for the booze and all that, and the heat. Thank goodness it's only a 2-game series, because if it was 3, I don't know if Chavez Ravine would still be standing or not. So, it's a fun time. Getting training camps back too. 3 preseason games, new schedule, and, As Bruce Buffer would say, it's time.